Hi everyone, Happy New Year. I wanted to take a couple of minutes to wish you just a really happy, peaceful year to come. 2022, I am so glad to see it gone and be done, and I am just ready for a new start. I wanted to give a quick overview of what happened during the year, and I also wanted to give lessons learned and hope to kind of continue sharing my journey a little bit. So, 2022 January, we'll start from the beginning. I tested positive January 14th of 2020 with COVID-19. It was not a surprise. My daughter was actually sick a couple of days before that, and we kind of all tested positive as a family. My daughter and my husband had a very mild reaction to COVID, and the acute infection was just kind of a overall flu-like symptoms, and within about, I would say, 5 days they were pretty good and in recovery. As you will know, and I've shared it, it was around the 10th day that I started not feeling right. I knew that my acute infection was subsided, but there was other symptoms that came about that in the scheme of things became known as vestibular migraines and also having some labyrinthitis issues. And then through the months to follow, I developed, what we call long COVID. Most of my symptoms revolved around shortness of breath, chest pain, palpitations, eye floaters, snow vision. I also developed some GI issues throughout the months that followed. Fatigue obviously was something that I've struggled and I still continue to struggle with. And a myriad of different skin issues that came about. So the year for sure was a struggle. I would say the first 3 to 4 months was hell. I honestly did not think I would survive it. I many times had wished that I wouldn't wake up the next day. So mental health really became the forefront for me and my family very early on, because we just knew that something was not right and that my patterns of thinking, of cognitive behaviors were just completely off. It was not me. And so we really reached out very soon to a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and we started doing therapy. Not only did I start doing therapy one on one, but also we started doing therapy for our marriage and our family. And so it just became very evident very early on that we just needed that extra help on the mental health side. I am a big proponent now of it, so I would suggest if you are just struggling with chronic conditions, chronic illnesses, any type of disability, that if you are able to and have the opportunity to reach out to a mental health professional, that you do so, because it is very, very important for just your overall health. I would say from 4 months into the 6 month mark, I started getting some answers onto what was wrong with me, but it took that long to find the correct medical team, to find the people that I trusted, the diagnosis that I trusted, that I believed in. And so it took really the first 6 months to even figure out what was wrong with me. And then I would say month 6 to 9 was getting ready for that kind of recovery. It was still a very up and down roller coaster recovery. Some days were extremely, extremely difficult, and some days you could see the light. I would not say that I felt at all that I was getting to recovery until about the end of month 8, into month 9. I think that's when like everything clicked. Like everything that I had been feeding my body, all the medication that I was on, everything that I've learned through therapy, CBT, cognitive therapy, all of that kind of came and all clicked. And it finally kind of dawned on me that I have to not like zero in on a specific symptom, but I have to like look at myself in a holistic way. And so I started really kind of radically accepting that this was the condition that I'm on and that every day will be different no matter what it is. And it was very hard, but that change in mindset really kind of catapulted me into really just looking at my overall health and my body in a light that was way different than I used to look at it before. So I started feeding it correctly. I started hydrating it correctly. I started not only feeding my body but my mind correctly, and that includes, taking off social media, taking TV time away, internet time away, and just really focusing on to what is really important and what was important for me. And I would say that after kind of the 9th, 10th month, then I started kind of seeing very slow results. It wasn't overnight. The recovery trajectory is a very up and down roller coaster ride. Sometimes you take 2 steps forward and sometimes you'll take 3 steps back. And then, but as long as you continue doing it forward, at one point you're not going to be where you started. I'm struggling with a flare up that came about around the holidays, but I know it will subside. And so that's something that has changed a little bit within myself, is that before, when I had a backward step or a flare up, I would completely and utterly crash and completely just kind of give up, and thinking that I'm going to be stuck like that forever. Now I have a different approach. I have a lot of tools in my tool belt to understand that it too shall pass. I think that it has taught me a lot more about my body this whole journey than I've ever expected it to. And that's because, one, I've never been chronically ill, and so this has been the first time that has happened to me. And then also it just gave me a really good perspective in life and what the priorities are. And so bringing forward into the new year, I wanted to share kind of like a couple of lessons learned that I wish I would have known through this journey since the beginning. I would say that, one of the things that I learned right away is that mental health should be a priority. As a typical American, we're always on the go. Everything is, needs to be done as of yesterday. I work for a corporation, and so everything was always, months ahead, weeks ahead, and you get stuck in that rat race, and you kind of get sucked in, and sometimes you forget to rest. So definitely that is one of my lessons learned, is understanding that your brain needs a break and that your body needs a break. And it's not just like, 2 weeks vacation every year, but you really need to prioritize that. Typically, like a working mom, weekends typically was all about, getting the house ready for the week. And now, after a year of prioritizing my health, I can totally understand that not doing dishes and not vacuuming and not doing laundry is not going to be the end of things. Having a real life, dwelling with messes around the house is normal, and that I don't need to have a spotless, clean house in order to feel achieved or to feel fulfilled. It is good for mental clarity as well to clean the clutter, but also understanding that sometimes you just need to clean the clutter inside before you can do anything on the physical outside realm. That's a really good important thing that I kind of learned from this year, is just prioritizing mental health. I think in the past I kind of saw it as more of a weakness per se, or that is something that I can deal with on my own, and that I don't need help. And I really have come to terms to understand that everybody needs help, no matter, if you are going through a very hard, challenging season in your life, or if you are just needing some kind of day-to-day maintenance, everybody really should have a therapist by their side, going through any challenges that they are facing. Also, with that in mind, I really learned the importance of having a primary care provider that really listens to you, that really believes the same, probably, or has the same values that you do. Unfortunately, I had a primary care provider that, when everything kind of hit the fan, she wasn't really listening to my needs. She wasn't prioritizing my needs. She was saying, "Oh, everything looks normal, so it's just anxiety." And having that first interaction where somebody tells you that you potentially are making things up in your mind, or at least has that perspective, really is a damaging effect to your overall, not just mental health, but like your health overall. I kept seeing the results come in, and it all said normal range, and she also saying that it was normal really made me think that I was really literally going insane. And so I really learned a hard lesson there, that before even you look at a primary care provider, you need to not only look at, are they part of your network, insurance, all that, but really, is that provider somebody who is really going to listen to you when something goes wrong? Do they understand your normal and baselines for all your metabolic rates? That if there was something wrong with it, where it would be maybe higher or lower range than what your normal is, that they would be willing to listen to you on that. Because I didn't have that primary provider that really listened to me at the beginning, it really made me go into this hypochondriac state where I went to a lot of providers. Over the course of a year, I've seen over 45 providers, and that includes, physical therapists, functional doctors, everything. And that's because I didn't trust the medical system, because that person gave me a very negative outlook on what I thought was wrong, and she didn't think something was wrong. And so because of that mistrust, I carry that baggage forward to all the other providers. And when other providers would listen and give me a diagnosis, I was very hesitant to just accept the diagnosis, and I was really hesitant on the medication that they would provide, because again, it was that mistrust that was built from the beginning. So I would say, if anything else, I really now really respect and have just a good desire to really get to know my doctor from day one. I would say, like, there's tons of information out there. You can Google information on how to choose your primary care provider, but I really would encourage you to have one first, and then two, when you do meet with them, that you ask the really hard questions. And that goes with, do they believe in abortion? What's their stance on high-risk pregnancies? What's their stance in preventative medicine? What's their stance in functional medicine? I mean, all of those core values that will have an impact to your health will be very beneficial, because, if you are a person that really believes in functional medicine and really believes in a holistic kind of nutritional way to heal your body, but then you have a doctor that thinks that that's just quack, then you're not going to be in alignment with them. So you really need someone who has that same perspective. I think in the past I would just say, well, if they can just look at structurally what's wrong, then any doctor can really just treat you, and that, unfortunately, it's not the case with very chronic illnesses. Yes, like if there's an urgent care need or an ER visit where you need to be stabilized or you have a broken bone, obviously, there are procedures that anyone can follow for that. But, long COVID vestibular disorders are not just a broken bone. Like there's no measurement for them, and so you really need someone that can really help you and be part of your team. That goes along with building your medical team. I was a true believer in, other modes of alternative medicine to heal, but I didn't really dwell too much into it. Like I've dwelled a little bit into chiropractic modalities. I dwelled a little bit into acupuncture, acupressure, and I've done some modalities there for massage, but I never really looked at beyond that. And I really wish that I would have had that kind of knowledge in the past, and not because I needed it, but because potentially I would have needed it. I think that the perception that, I was young and healthy and that I don't need it today, and so therefore I'll just put it off for tomorrow, what really kind of came and bit me in my butt, because I needed it, this year, and I really wished and I regret not doing my research prior to. What's done is done, but it is something that it is a good lesson learned for me. The last lesson that I really wanted to share that I've learned is about self-care and self-love, and just prioritizing your health. I am a mom, and I'm a wife, and so for me, household duties and the care of everyone comes before me. And many times I did not prioritize my health or prioritize my well-being because I wanted to take care of people, and that's kind of where I get my happiness from, and there's nothing wrong with that, because that's kind of what makes me a good wife and a good mother. But at one point or another, you really do need to prioritize things. For example, one of the things that I always had trouble with was sticking to a very healthy diet. I was overweight, but I wasn't obese. I always wanted to lose the 10 pounds that I gained during pregnancy. I never lost those, so I really was always trying to search that, and I would always start a good healthy diet, but then sabotage it by the weekend. And I was like, I can never give up carbs, I can never give up sugar, I can never do that. And it was like that negative self-talk of I can never do it, that for years, for decades, I would just say, well, I just can't do it, I can't stick to it, I can't hydrate enough because I just don't like water. And I just kept putting excuses and excuses. And then when you do have an illness, you do have to prioritize those. And then you learn that you do have time. You make the time. I kind of, in perspective, I was making all these excuses of I don't have time, I don't have the ability to do so, I don't have the discipline to do so. And then yet this year showed me that yes, you do have the discipline to do so, because you don't feel right and you are feeling very sick. Exercise kind of goes along with the same lines of I always wanted to make exercise kind of a priority and stick with it, and I would start a membership of a gym, or I would start a class, a fitness class, or I would do certain things, but I would never stick with it for a long term. And I would always, again, prioritize other people, prioritize different needs before mine. And not that I wasn't unhealthy before all this, but it really puts it in perspective that I could have been taking care of my body a little better. And this is not to say that people that are very, very healthy, that watch what they eat and are gym rats or had a very, very healthy lifestyle, don't get long COVID. That is a big misconception as well. I mean, there are people who are very, very healthy, who had very good lifestyle changes, and they get long COVID as well, or they get vestibular disorders as well, or other chronic illnesses as well. So I don't want to minimize that, but I also want to say that living a healthy lifestyle and living a a a life where your body is the priority will have and reap benefits further off. And that is something that I really learned this year is I was able to change my lifestyle. I was able to prioritize movement. I couldn't work out per se because of my fatigue, but I could do yoga, I could do tai chi, I could do other modalities through physical therapy. And I almost every day would have a treatment of physical therapy, and I did it for about 8 to 10 months. And I would get ready, I would drive myself to the facility, have the 30-45 minutes of physical therapy, and then come home. And in the past, I wouldn't even be able to go to the gym for 15-20 minutes because I would say I don't have time. But now I make time. I prioritize that. So that's something obviously that you learn, is that you are your own excuse and that you have to make the difference. And the last lesson that I learned, and I really want to give forward, is that you live on the present and not a yesterday and not tomorrow. Yesterday already passed. Tomorrow may not be here. I think that I always had the perspective that I could always be here tomorrow, and I learned this year that that's not the case. That tomorrow doesn't exist. This morning, this afternoon may never come, and like you really have to be present. That at this time, at this hour, at this minute, at this second, because the last second that already went by will never come again. And that goes for just understanding that your suffering is just for now. That you don't know what tomorrow is coming. You don't know what your body will do going forward, and that really changing that mindset of getting stuck, I'm always going to be like this, really has reaps and benefits, and I have seen it firsthand. And I just want to share those lessons learned, to live in the present, to understand that tomorrow is another day, that it'll have its own challenges, it'll have its own opportunities, but today, just live for today and be grateful for that. And being grateful for pain for today is something that takes practice. It takes a lot of mindfulness, but sometimes when I am in pain, I just thank the pain for it. I thank my body that it's alive and it works well enough to understand pain, and that my body needs rest, and I acknowledge the pain, I accept the pain. And then it's so weird, but after you kind of do all those CBTs and use all those tools, the pain just dissipates. Not all the time, not every time, but sometimes it just helps to just get forward and move ahead. And so baby steps are really good in the journey, and it has taken millions of baby steps to get where I am. And I just wanted to wish you a really good journey going forward. I am coming up to my year mark in a couple weeks, and I'm just grateful that I made it through a full year of long COVID, of vestibular disorders. I thought last January that my life was gone. I thought for sure I would never ever be the same. And a year later, God has shown me completely different. I've completely changed, and I've learned a lot from this experience. And I'm not done yet. I am not completely and fully 100% recovered. And I may not ever be, but I believe I will, and I will give that to God, because I will not worry about it. Tomorrow is tomorrow. So today I will just be grateful for what it is. I wish you a happy and peaceful 2023. I will be probably making a video at my 18-month mark. I wanted to share my journey for a full year, not because of a particular reason, but because I haven't seen anybody really doing a month-to-month long COVID update, and a lot of people online, and myself included, always had questions like, okay, I'm month 6, what were your symptoms at month 6? So that you could potentially feel supported, feel like you're kind of going in the same journey. And so I wanted to document this, not only for myself, to see backwards how my recovery went, but also to just share and support one another, because I hadn't seen it done. There's a lot more now, YouTube videos about long COVID and their journey throughout, but my long COVID journey was very specific with the vestibular disorders, so I wanted to share my journey with that as well, and just share every single month kind of the trajectory of where I was that month. So it's been a year, and I've survived, and I'm alive, and I'm thankful for everything, and I'm very grateful for that. I will be coming in at the 18th month mark and kind of giving you an update on there. I'm hoping by then I'm a lot better than I am now. I'm a little bit flared up this month because of all the holidays and the stress, but coming here into January, I'm really hoping to calm everything down, and I'm just looking forward to the new year. Happy New Year, everyone. Have a happy holiday.